Do you know what sexual double standards mean?
No, please give me the definition.
There's like lots of jokes about like guys who have gotten with a lot of girls, and it's like, oh, he's like such a player, haha. But then it's like if a girl gets with a lot of guys, it's kind of seen as like trashy.
Men can sleep with a lot of girls and they get patted on the back, but if women want to sleep around with a lot of guys, they're called sluts. And I think it's wrong.
If a guy hooks up with a lot of girls, it's looked as a positive thing, where if it's a girl hooking up with a lot of guys, it's viewed as a negative.
The spaces where students end up hooking up with each other are so dominated by male students.
Just sluts.
Slut, whore.
Society wants me to call her a slut.
Slut, whore, easy.
Sluts or whores?
Maybe names like slut, a whore. Society would not think very highly of them, but they would also obviously still be accepted because society's favorite people sleep with a lot of girls. Guys, Kylie Jenner fucks everyone. Kim Kardashian fucks everyone.
Being a man and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Player.
Honestly, can't think of like a name like that for guys.
A guy. Player, maybe?
Players or studs?
Pretty lazy, so my daytime look and nighttime look are pretty similar.
I am in class all day, so I usually wear something comfortable. And then when I go out, I dress up and I wear more makeup than I do during the day. And I'll definitely show more skin.
Maybe I'll wear sweatpants to class, but I won't wear sweatpants to parties. But that being said, sometimes I wear sweatpants to parties.
When I go out with my friends, I feel like I have to wear a certain type of outfit to like fit in. Sometimes when a girl is wearing an outfit that maybe shows more skin or is a little more sensual, I guess, that people try to use that as justification for assault and say, well, she shouldn't have been wearing that, like why didn't she wear something more modest?
No.
I do, but once I get away from Britain Plaza or like away from Morgan Field, it kind of gets a little more sketchy.
I feel safe walking home alone, but I know that not everyone does.
Not really.
Yes. Yes.
Being sexually assaulted.
Usually I actually get like freaked out if there's like a guy walking behind me or like close to me. But it's still like freaky, just anybody near you that you don't know who they are.
To be honest, I fear like my fellow students the most, like the guys on campus, because I feel like they're entitled and they think they can do whatever they want and that they're invincible, like the world is their oyster.
Stereotype that women are supposed to be more submissive and they think that they're supposed to be that way, then they're gonna like allow men to be that dominant person more.
I'd say on like a normative scale, yes.
Generally in popular culture, men are depicted as more dominant and females as more submissive, and that translates to like how people actually act. They don't recognize lines of consent as easily, like especially with dancing. Like guys will just grab you. They won't ask. They'll just start grinding on you and like gyrating on you.
Bigger percentage than I think it is.
And 2/3 of women in college.
Like 25, 30%.
15%.
I really don't have an estimate for percent.
Probably 50% of people.
Probably about 1 in 5 women.
About 5%.
Probably a bigger number than I think, but like way smaller than the number of women.
Maybe 25% to half.
5 to 10%.
Less than 5%.
I think it's lower just based off people I know who've been sexually assaulted.
Definitely a lot less. Guess maybe 1 in 20.
It's more often on college campuses than people think it does or like to admit.
I definitely do, just because there's so many people packed into a smaller area, and you know, there's no parents, so a lot of stuff can happen under the radar.
I do, just because I think there's a high alcohol consumption and also just a high level of people within the age range where people are likely to make mistakes under those conditions.
Different groups that people are like, oh, that happens with this group more often. And it's usually like there's large groups of guys where people are like, oh, all of those guys together, like that's very dangerous.
I think they have an idea in their head that since they're, you know, hot shit and they can get whoever they want, you know, women might not agree.
I would say that the social circles that party with fraternities and sports teams are largely the same people, so no.
No. Just because you're in a group, that doesn't really define you as a person. I think to place people in those subcategories is kind of unfair.
It's just more common that rape culture happens to happen with those groups.
I remember a lady talked about how she was sexually assaulted and she was scared for her daughter to be sexually assaulted, and she eventually was.
No, not at all.
Ooh, that was a while ago. There was like steps that we were to take, like if we saw somebody that looked like they were going to be a victim of sexual assault, I think.
Specifically, no.
I thought the online program, I think it was called, I forget what it was called actually. I thought that was good to a certain degree, but it didn't talk about consent explicitly, and it was just like a one-time thing. Meanwhile, Alcohol EDU had like 5 parts.
I don't remember much of it at all.
I think it could be addressed, but a lot of times it feels like people are just giving a speech and most people wander off.
To continue the program and make it more extensive, I feel like the college just kind of does those 2 short things in the beginning just to say they did something.
Doing little something like that every year, every semester kind of still brings like that awareness.
I feel like if there was more just like overall mandatory meetings that people had to go to,
sexual assault is real, and you can't brush it off if you don't know what you're talking about. And I take back what I said about Kylie and Kim Kardashian. That was a bad example.